Two, one.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for MES. It is November 16th, 2023, and it is 9:31 a.m. We are going to start with the minutes from October 26th, 2023. Are there any objections or amendments or corrections that anyone would like to offer?
No.
And if not, we can deem them approved as drafted. Okay, Dr. Glass.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So during this period, I incurred $3,129.37 in expenses. These are all coming through from WEFTEC that I briefed you on last month because I already came back. And even the airfare was for WEFTEC, but it just didn't get through the processing. Debbie Furketic incurred $1,100 in the registration for WEFTEC, but she was a delegate, so half of her costs were actually covered by Water Runner Federation. So because this board is so early in November, other expenses that might have occurred.
Yeah, I was going to say I'll have more.
There will be more in the future as they process through. This is just an earlier time frame for our board. Next month. Next slide. Next month. So short time period, but still a few highlighted conversations that have taken place in the last 3 weeks. I did get a kickoff with three of the four high school students from Glen Burnie High School, just to show you my service. I'm going to serve this academic year, high school academic year, as their climate mitigation advisor. They want to study the heat island effect and its impact on life expectancy in urban environments and ways to mitigate it. So I did a quick Google search and went to EPA's heat island page and gave them a bunch of reading material, like a good retired professor. They were very chagrined at the workload that they could get that quickly in a 30-minute conversation. Had a great conversation with the Chesapeake Bay Trust in this last 3 weeks. Dr. Davis is now wearing proudly an MES badge. For those that don't know, Chesapeake Bay Trust are technically employees of the Maryland Environmental Service, so now she can get all access to all of the buildings in Annapolis and does not have to go through the screening process of non-state employees. So she's very happy with that. And we're looking at, it's almost, I don't know if people have paid attention to the settlement for Back River and Patapsco wastewater treatment plants for the Department of Public Works for Baltimore City. It's almost, we don't share financials with Chesapeake Bay Trust. They are separate and distinct financially. So it's not as though we help them get $4 million in projects that they deliver, and they will hand out grants to mitigate the pollution that has been the result of Back River and Patapsco being out of compliance. But we applaud them and that great work that'll come through for the region. And next slide. I also want to highlight conversations with nonprofits, the nonprofit Rebuild Metro. So as a part of proposals, which I'll show you on one of my later slides, outreach to NGOs in Baltimore City that are engaged one way or another in environmental improvement. For the two proposals that we described last month, I engaged with four Baltimore City nonprofits. One of them we ended up not working on a proposal with, which is Rebuild Metro and their executive director, Sean Foskey. But just to keep in touch and see what other opportunities, there are so many IRA and bipartisan infrastructure law opportunities that are out there, and they all call for lots of partners in every effort, from workforce development and wraparound services to get people that have been underserved and harder to get employment from their neighborhoods, to rebuilding urban infrastructure. And he had a great idea, or as I described and gave him the MES 101, which is a little short slide that we give to anyone that wants to learn more about MES. He talked about how it would be great to have energy efficiency in the homes they rebuild. So Rebuild Metro gets pools, they raise funds from nonprofits, and they build, $70 million, $100 million allotments for phases of, and they engage with neighborhoods to find out what the neighborhoods want, and then they go to the city and get wholesale blocks of homes to renew. They don't have environmental or energy efficiency expertise on their development team, and so he thought it'd be great. And so the link between Rebuild Metro and the Maryland Energy Administration and all of the grants that are coming out for energy efficiency, solar on rooftop, hot water heater solar, heat pumps, and energy efficient stoves, electric stove, and I'm missing one, heat pump, hot water heater. Anyway, that's pretty much it. But to make the whole home energy efficient as they rebuild, and apply for federal funds to support them in that effort. So I'm going to follow up with that. I'm going to put the test team on it, like they are so efficient at doing, and see if we can build a relationship and access to the other action planning. Tried to engage with the Maryland Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They sent a partnership agreement that didn't pass muster by the Illuminati here at MES. So what we're going to do is we're going to participate and look out for their next events. This is focused on outreach to the Latino community in the state. So we will be present most likely in the new year at some of their events and pay for that level of participation sponsorship. And the Four Seasons Farm is very interesting. That's a farm in Howard County that is trying to be net zero. And it's early in its development. Lots of great ideas, including biochar. They want to do everything under the sun when it comes to being a green net zero farm. But they're just getting started. And I just told the executive director, well, we'll keep in touch and talk quarterly, but there's nothing we can do for them right now because they're so far in their infancy. But it was a great conversation to know about farming and how green farming can be net zero, carbon neutral, and completely sustainable on their farm. So next slide. Recruitment is in full swing. You can see that in December, there will be a drastic drop off as everyone, the schools, the universities, the government, enjoys the holiday season. We'll be right back at it. In January, we'll also be launching our process of seeking interns for the following summer. We maybe have some returners, but for all of you to know. Oh, so the other, from that past slide, one thing I wanted to mention, anyone in the room that knows high level or high performing nonprofits in the state that have something to do in the environmental space, just for all the board members and anyone watching, give us leads on those high performing organizations. And I'd like to engage with them to see if there's ways to partner on all these federal funds that are coming through. You really need those partners. So look forward to engaging more with CWEA and the training program in Baltimore City, and the like. Likewise, young people that are in college, please, when we put out the announcement in January, please encourage those to apply. We had 94, I believe, applicants last year. Hopefully we can break 100 for our 10 to 15, maybe 20 positions we have in headquarters and around the state. Internship positions, which is what we're recruiting for, and we're also always hiring too. Next slide. And I'll leave the HR numbers to HR. Hopefully this is just to show a site visit. Hopefully the board members that participated and enjoyed the visit. You see board member Botts, Johnson, and Joe on the screen, and some of the administrative staff getting out to see, I believe, Mr. Coleman. Was that your first trip to the MERS? That was Mr. Coleman's first trip to the Prince George County MERS. Only since 17 though, right? 2017 or 2017 is when we got the MRF. When MRF came online. So great short visit. Next time we'll give them the real tour and make them wear hard hats and safety protection and walk around. Get close and very see some lockout tag out action. As things happen. Next slide.
Gotta get close to the optical sword. It's really
Get close to the optical sword. Also, administrative staff were let out of the office and visited Hartmel Island, a beautiful island. I wanted to put some information here because if for anyone that doesn't know, Hartmel Island is a 1,100 acre island. This is channeling Ms. Dollar that we operate in support of the Maryland Port Administration, located in Baltimore County on the Chesapeake Bay, mouth of the Middle River. But the island was originally part of a peninsula that extended from Edgemere, Maryland. I did not know that. The two islands, Hart and Miller, were joined by the construction of a dike in 1981, and until 2009 received material from Baltimore Harbor. It's the last dredge material facility receiving harbor material in the bay, correct?
Correct.
Right, that got that. Yep. So they had a great tour. It's a beautiful island. If you've never been, get a boat and go on over and visit the beach. Next slide. On November 8th, we hosted a lunch and learn program led by Ms. Deanna Leach, but we hosted Ms. Nicole Hill from Anne Arundel County Board of Elections. It was presented in person and in stream. We all learned a lot about the process. I was flummoxed by the count that they take as people are leaving. What do they call it?
exit poll.
The exit poll is actually not the actual counting of the votes, which was everyone else probably already knew that. I didn't really process that. But duties included setting up and breaking down a polling place if you volunteer to be an election judge. At MES, we grant 8 hours of administrative leave for staff that volunteer to work on election day. Unfortunately, they probably want overtime because it's more than an 8-hour day. People show up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and they stay until 10 p.m. So it's a long day. But the state of Maryland is still short approximately 1,000 judges for next year's election. So please be encouraged to volunteer yourselves and people you know. Next slide. So new effort this fiscal year. So all you new board members, you're seeing something that's original. I discussed these opportunities and how we're pushing forward. We have we basically have had a ad hoc team, we can call it now, of the managing directors helping with folks, but this is how the $250,000 allotment that has been put into a cost center to support billable staff working on breach projects. So last month we had finished the two Reconnect USDOT Reconnect communities. And this month we have 2 that are complete. And the solar for all, and as support of MEA was also done last month. But we have 2 that are complete and were submitted on Monday. They are also for that same property, the same dump off of Poteet Street that has people living on it, that we would like to go mitigate as a brownfield and have social services for the folks that are on the property. And then both DGS and Baltimore City are willing to have the community put something positive on that property that is the community's vision. So whether we win the USDOT award for Poteet Street, we've applied to US EPA for both. There are 2 lots and they're next to each other that one's owned by Baltimore City, one's owned by DGS. We wrote those proposals. I didn't write them. Ms. Dollar and Ms. Slatnick led the team with Mr. Kluga and also Ms. Warner, and of course the illustrious Ms. Peters, who can do anything. They worked on that, they executed it, and we wrote those. I just want to stress, the property owner had to submit. So Baltimore City submitted for their work with MES as the sub that would do the work, and same with DGS. DGS had to submit. Also, water wastewater will complete their proposal tomorrow for an enhancement to our OIT program to US EPA. We all know of the shortage in the workforce for water infrastructure. All the operators that are retiring and all of the utilities in the state, everyone has a need. I actually saw on the way to WEFTEC, happened to be on the same plane as the CEO, general manager of WSSC, and she came up to me talking about submitting to this. I don't think I told Mr. Barr that, but she talked about submitting to this. I told her we already have a program, but she never reached out again. You know, she's different level of utility. So, and there's another one we're working on where just yesterday we submitted to DNR. DNR is going to be the prime on a climate ready workforce, which is a large $5 to $10 million effort. Also requires workforce development, wraparound services, being supportive of people that do not have a car and do not have childcare or elder care. But they're the lead, so we will be supporting them. We will be preparing to hire and train. And that's about having people be trained to work on wetlands, nature-based solutions for climate resilience. So it's a fast and furious time. There's a very, very large climate readiness grant that MDE already won the planning grant for. It's due in the spring. I plan to reach out to MDE to see how we can support them on their larger proposal effort. And there's just so much money. It's a time for our nation to change environmentally if all this money gets put to good work. And we're just continue to plan to do our part in that effort. And I think that's my last slide. Any questions? And again, if you know communities, if you have 6 communities on the Eastern Shore and Southern Eastern Shore are labeled by FEMA to be, I can't remember the designation, but it wasn't a good one, based on flooding and everything. And so we support MEMA, MDEM already, and we'll continue to support anyone that wants to partner on these types of grants. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, next we're going to look at the new business report. So if there are any questions, just jump right in and ask. Any comments from staff, feel free to share.
No.
Is there another slide? Can't remember if this was 1 or 2 slides.
Just the one that's numbered.
Okay, excellent. And has Mr. Patel joined us? I believe he has.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have the financial report. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
These are the charts I inherited from my predecessor 3 years ago almost. And I just realized, and I was thinking about it, that I have to enhance the financial presentation so that right now what it is showing is that the actuals are the blue bars, which are higher than the red bars, which is the budget, and much higher than the green bars, which is the last year. I have a table, and I'm going to talk from that, but I'll work with Ms. Fuller. We need to have some numbers showing up there, the total for the agencies. Like right now, it is broken down by the group. So I'll modify that so that way you can see overall agency how it is there. So right now, our actual billable labor for fiscal year 24 is 14,628,000. Actual fiscal year 23 was 11,311,000. So that's an increase of 3,317,000, which is 29% more than the last year. So throughout my presentation, you will hear the main reason for it is because we have 3 pay periods in October this year versus 2 pay periods in October last year. It will catch up in November and December. All the numbers throughout the presentation are significantly higher as compared to last year because of 3 pay periods. And when you have a 3 pay periods, then we have a higher billable labor, and that also adds to fringe recovery, overhead recovery. So that's why all the results are significantly higher. So that makes my explanation easier because you will see all these different, next slide and everything is higher because of the three packages. So here we have the comparison of 4 months ended October 23. The second column is as of last year. The first column is as of this year. And if you look at it, is just the increase. If you look at increase in net assets, which is important, is last year was 1,819,000. Now it is 4,292,000 because of the increased pay periods. Since this is an early meeting, we could not put the financial statements in the package. So you don't have all the details in your package. We can send you the package when it's ready. But this is what we have right now is just a brief summary. The labor sales are up 29%, as I showed in the previous slide. Billable hours are up 21%, but all that last column, the significant increases, a lot of them are due to the three pay periods. So revenues right now is 60 million compared to 53 million, which all the pay periods were equal, will be great, but right now it is 7 million higher than the last year. Next. And this is the last slide for me. As you can see, the increase in net asset, full year budget in the first column was 4,157,000. And this is the only slide where we have a full year estimate fiscal year 24, which is as of now estimated to be 5,758,000. Because of the miracle of the Excel, this is adjusted for three pay periods. So we have adjusted that, So right now it is looking at 5.7 million. The major expenses of holidays gonna come, during the holidays, December, January. So that will be, a little reduced amount at that time. So right now, everything looks so great because of the three pay periods. So unless anyone has any questions, this is all, everything I presented to you are significantly higher in each category, and it will get caught up in November or December. Now, I have two more things to say. We received our first Ford Lightning truck. That's the EV truck. I didn't drive it, but I got in there and, see the pictures, and it is high to get in there. It's really high, it looks like it's designed for tall people, but this mechanic suggests that we have to put a running board or something, Also, we have two charging stations from the solar panels existing for each other. We are installing two more charging stations from spare capacity of the building electricity, and the installation it was supposed to be last week and rained out, so it will be done this week. Plus, our one of our engineers is developing the scope of work to put 12 more charging stations in the front. When you enter it, the very first right row where the cars are, we're gonna have another 12 charging stations. So we are going as much as possible to have electric vehicles in the fleet. Any questions? And that's complete.
Thank you very much. Okay, human resources, Mr. Sharma.
Good morning, everyone. So as of right now, we have 36 total vacancies, out of which 10 are new positions. So really it's 26 backfills. The overall vacancy rate is 4.56%. Real quick, I just wanted to mention, so we are looking at being more flexible and responsive with pretty much all of our processes. So what we have been doing historically is onboarding employees on a Wednesday. I'm happy to report this is the first week where we actually onboarded employees on a Monday as well as a Wednesday. So we are looking to be more flexible, and we want to be in a position where we are ready to onboard employees as soon as they are ready. And along with that, starting early next year, we will be looking at all of our processes, including HR processes, procurement processes, and any others that may come along our way, and just look through any, I guess, wasted steps and see where we can find more efficiencies. So that's something that's going to be our focus for next year. Any questions?
Just not a question of comment. I was looking at something on the web the other night, and it was talking about people get so involved with digitizing and everything that they lose the touch that goes with really how you work with people. So the point just being, you didn't say you were going in a direction, but let's not lose the importance of person-to-person contact.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. So when I talk about process efficiencies, I'm not really talking about digitizing everything. There may be things that we've just been doing for the last 15, 20, 30 years just because we've done it that way. We're just going to look into, are all of these steps needed? Is there anything that we can cut down upon? So, for example, if I have to pass you this folder and it goes through 3 steps, maybe I can just pass it directly to you and just, make it more efficient. So those are the kind of things we'll be looking into. Thank you.
And I think Dr. Glass has mentioned before, he and I go down when the new people come on for onboarding, and we make sure that we meet them and talk to them about, just about MES and our mission and all that, but we make it a point every time we have new people come that we're there, and we give them a good event too.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Next up, we have, wearing a slightly different hat than what we're used to seeing, is Ms. Condra to discuss the procurement items and notifications.
Sure. Procurement item 1, it's from the Water Wastewater Engineering Division, and the project is Camp Frederick.
Frederick. Yeah, like Frederick.
Wastewater temperature treatment plant improvement. It is a competitive sealed bid, and it was awarded to Lee Foundation Company Incorporated, located in Middle River, Maryland. The amount is for $3.55 million, and with a MBE goal of 20%.
So I have a question. I'm sorry. In this particular item, there were some ups and downs.
Yes.
Yes.
And my question is, why wasn't it ups found earlier in the system, such that we wouldn't have had to do that? Because what I read was, it was an item that didn't meet, and they didn't meet when they gave you the first proposal. But second or third time around, all of a sudden they said you can't do that. It seems like to me, if I was the person sitting there, I said, you guys just put some stuff out there to get me, and you found something. That's all. But the question is, do we have any lessons that we learned that we can implement into how we do the evaluation?
Well, again, I'm acting, but I am looking into that process along, like Mr. Sharma. I am looking at efficiencies, looking at what we're doing right now, meeting one-on-one with everyone and looking at their process, and possibly doing some reorgan to make sure that we don't drop the ball, and that we have someone on top of those processes, and ensuring that when a bid comes in, that it's reviewed by the right person, someone's held accountable.
So I have a question. When the bids were received, first time HRI were they lowest bidder, they did not resubmit?
So, no, they didn't, and they didn't respond.
They did resubmit.
They resubmit?
They
Okay.
resubmitted, but were found non-responsive because they didn't meet the MBE goal, and they didn't ask for a waiver for the amount that they didn't.
Thank you.
Procurement item two.
Okay.
Sorry.
So if there are no other questions or discussion, we can entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Again, one more opportunity for questions or discussion. And hearing none, all those in favor, if you could raise your right hand and say aye to signify approval.
Aye.
Aye. Same sign if opposed. There are no recusals or nays, so the item is unanimously approved. Ms. Condra, number 2.
Awesome, thank you. This is again from the water and wastewater group, the engineering division. The project is for the Greenbrier State Park. And the procurement method is from the architect and engineering shortlist. And it was awarded to Mott McDonald LLC. And the amount is $495,724. And the MBE goal is 57.4%.
We'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion on this item? Hearing none.
Question.
Oh, sorry.
The MBE goal, that seems pretty high.
That's what they committed to.
That's what they committed to. And do you make sure that they comply?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when it comes into the open end, is there a rotation that you guys go through, or is it competitive between the open end?
We try to rotate through the different ones on the list.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good question. For all those in favor of approval, if you could raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone not in favor of approval? Hearing none, and there are no recusals, unanimous approval. Thank you. Number 3.
So this is again from the Water and Wastewater Group Engineering Division. And the project is for the James Island State Park. And it is also from the architect and engineering shortlist. It was awarded to Keystone Engineering Incorporated for the amount of $292,961. And the MBE goal is 36%.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Are there any questions or topics for discussion on this item? And hearing none, if you would like to vote for approval, please raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Anyone? No? Okay, excellent. Unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Condra. Good to hear from you. And next we have the procurement notifications. I'm not sure if there are any questions on this item. Okay, I don't believe there are.
No.
Okay, and 2 pages of notifications. If there are no questions, then we can move to group updates. I believe we're going to start today with Tim Ford on the steam plant operations discussion.
All right.
Mr. Ford?
Hi. So good morning, everybody. We're going to talk about the environmental operations, steam plant operations. Our client is the Maryland Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services. Ellen gave me a look there.
Yeah.
So I got that right. What the steam plants do at the correctional facilities is produce steam for building, heat, cooking, laundry, and hospital services. So, as you know, MES has been a long-time operator of the ECI cogen facility, over 30 years there. And as part of that operation, we manage steam plant operations, provide those services I just spoke about for ECI. Because we've demonstrated proficiency in steam plant operations, DPSCS came to us and asked us if we'd be interested in operating boiler plant operations, not necessarily generating electricity, we do in ECI, but operate the boiler plant operations at other correctional facilities, and we said sure. So the program has expanded beyond ECI. In 2014, we started with the Hagerstown, the MCIH steam plant Hagerstown correctional facility in Hagerstown. Next slide. The scope expanded in 2017 and 2020 with 2 additional plants. So we're over in the JCI, Jessup Correctional Institution. And then we also work at the Central Laundry facility for the state. And it's technically the Central Correctional Facility. It's the right title for that site. Services are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And the program requires that MES provide DLR licensed grade 1 stationary engineers to operate those boiler plants. That is not an easy lift. The program takes about 10 years from a person entering that profession to graduate with a licensed grade 1 sanitary engineer license. So it takes about 10 years. We have a robust training program for all of our operations. We take our people from grade 5 all the way up to a grade 1 license. And there is we get into it at some point, we have training programs similar to OITs. There are financial incentives for our employees who move from one grade to the next. And they are trained and licensed, and they sit for tests to get those grades. Next slide. We staff 19 operations staff at the 3 steam plants. It's exclusive of ECI. 16 Maryland grade 1 stationary engineers, 2 utility operations in training basically, and a project manager who works at headquarters that manages those 3 sites. We were lucky to find Jennifer. She has a cadet of Merchant Marines and understands boiler operations, which was a huge find for an engineer. The Department of Corrections relies on MES year-round, as I said, to produce steam. It's a critical function. Steam demand, I like the word fades away in the summer and fall, but in winter as temperatures drop, heating becomes a priority. These plants have multiple boilers, we'll talk about that in a minute, at site, but at different sizes that we operate depending on the season. Next slide. So at Hagerstown, we have 3 water tube boilers, and then we run those boilers on number 2 fuel oil. There is not natural gas available at this location. As you can imagine, it's been over the last few years, there was quite a struggle to keep up with fuel pricing. We are responsible at this plant to manage fuel. There are 3 boilers there. Staff who wrote this for me are creative. They call them the Goldilocks. So there's a small, there's a medium, and there's a large, depending on the seasonal demand. There are a network of underground piping that takes that steam from the steam boiler plant into the prison itself, correctional facility, I should say, itself. And then it's routed to where it's needed. And we have licensed engineers that monitor the steam demand and communicate with DPSCS. When there's a change in steam consumption, that can often mean that there and condensate return, basically, because that tells us they have leaks on the system so frequently there.
Next slide. At Jessup, there are 4 water tube boilers at Jessup. These are fueled by natural gas. We do not pay that bill. The steam produced at Jessup goes to the Jessup Correctional Institution and the Maryland Correctional Institution at Jessup. Again, same deal as the other plant. We work 24/7. In their laundry, heat, and cooking, it's also used at the hospital on campus at Jessup. So again, critical nature of the work. We cannot lose steam. Next slide. And the Maryland Correctional Facility, Central Maryland Correctional Facility is actually the central laundry. The laundry from the other prisons are sent to the site. And that's one major laundry there. This is the only location that's within the gates, basically, so it's behind the fence. So it requires additional security measures that we have to take when we're working there. It adds additional challenges when we have to bring outside vendors in to work, and we have difficulty. We can't get, for instance, a temporary employment agencies to work there. They won't work within the walls of the prison. So it presents different challenges for us. It is in Sykesville. It's a newest addition to the fleet. We started there just providing operators. Again, as I said, operators are not an easy lift, and DPSCS was challenged, particularly on their pay scale, to attract and retain licensed engineers. So we made that possible for them. The plant produces steam in 4 fire tube boilers, and it's natural gas as a fuel. And again, this is used for laundry as well as the other uses that we talked about earlier. I think that's it.
Great.
All right. Any questions?
How do we get our fuel that we purchase? How's it cost?
So the fuel that we do purchase is at both ECI and at, and I talked about ECI here in Hagerstown, right? And that's purchase of the state contract. At ECI, we're converting to natural gas. We were burning wood there, and that was through a competitive procurement for that wood purchase. And then for the natural gas, that'll be also on the state contract.
You spoke about the challenges of getting outside vendors. Do MES staff have to go through kind of protocol and direction?
We made it a point, and Sean was quick to point out that our folks are not prison guards. They're not correctional. Originally, that was a discussion about our people holding that as well, holding that title as well, and we elected not to. So we don't have to go through any of the training that a correctional officer would have to go through. But our people are still responsible and subject to the security training and risks that are in the site. So they're subject to search like anybody else. There's certain things they can and can't bring into the facility. They have to be careful about how they communicate with prisoners. There are prisoners that do janitorial work and cut grass, so they have to be careful how they work with those prisoners. Inmates, I'm sorry, proper words, inmates. And we're very careful of that. We always tell them, if you've got high school kids, make sure you check the car before you bring it to work, because they do search the car. So leave something in the car, you're gonna.
You may get in and not back. We actually had that happen to, we had like a sewer crew go in, not an MES crew, but a contractor go in to do sewer work at one of the prisons one time, and they kept somebody.
I'm surprised. They'll feed you bologna sandwich though.
Feel like that's a whole new definition to know your audience.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tim. Environmental dredging and restoration. Ms. Dolinar, what are you going to talk to us about today?
Good morning. The Masonville Cove Connector Project. First, I just want to mention that the Masonville Cove is adjacent to the Masonville Dredge Material Containment Facility, and the cove was once a contaminated shoreline and dumping ground. but MPA had restored the property with support from MES, making it to a green space, a recreational space in the middle of Baltimore City. So it's quite an asset. It includes 70 acres of water and 54 acres of wetlands, including native wetlands, and also the Masonville Cove Environmental Education Center, which is pictured in the middle. Up top is the aerial view of the Masonville Cove. This property is used for kayaking, birding, just to have fresh green space. And it's also the first designated U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service urban wildlife refuge partnership property, and it just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. So we have this great, awesome green space, but there's no way to get to the property by foot or bike. It's very dangerous with the truck traffic. And one of the priority projects of the port is to create the Masonville Cove connector to establish safe and equitable, convenient access for the communities and connect them to the cove. We're helping them with this, and we have an MOU. The total is $2.289 million and includes funding from Federal Lands Access Program grants, 2 of them actually, and also a matching grant from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, about 20%. We support them on this project, and also pictured at the bottom is Captain Trash Wheel, which we also help manage the construction and installation. So you can go visit that. The Masonville Cove connector, when completed, will be an 8-foot pathway. It'll be alongside Frankfurt Avenue from South Hanover Street to the Cove. It'll be approximately 3,800 feet, and it'll connect the Quinns Falls Trail and the Baybrook connector, and it'll provide 20 miles of pathway, pedestrian pathway. So far, we've conducted 2 traffic studies, developed 8 design concepts, and we've obviously obtained the federal grants, and we've shared the concepts with stakeholders, including commercial businesses, and we're collecting their feedback and we'll incorporate it in the final design. And also, we just launched a community outreach effort that included a open house November 6th at the Brooklyn Library. It was very successful. We had about 50 participants there. They enjoyed pizza, and we also handed out very large brochure showing the concepts and why this is important. It's also in Spanish, so if anybody wants to look at it, sit around. So currently, as I discussed, currently there's no pedestrian access along First Avenue. It's a dual double lane roadway with heavy truck traffic. It's not very safe. So we developed 8 different concepts, and here are the 4 on the north side of First Avenue. And on the next slide, you'll see the 4 on the south side. If you go to the next slide, it'll show our comparison matrix that we're using to evaluate the concepts. And it's probably hard to see, so I'll read it, but the considerations include minimizing environmental impacts, minimizing impacts to private property, minimizing conflicts with other projects, minimizing impacts to utilities or requiring major grading or retaining walls. And we want to make sure that there's safe buffer space, speed compliance, and supporting other existing operations. Currently, we plan to have the 30% design completed this winter, and then the 100% design completed in 2024, and construction is planned in 2025, pending funding. We'll get more grants.
There will be either a north or a south one, but not both. Is that right?
Correct.
Wouldn't it be better to be on the path to be on the north side?
Yeah,
Right.
you would
So
think,
we wouldn't cross.
but I guess since it's lining up with the April path, maybe that will give you an opportunity to contact. And Thank you.
Thank you. Water, wastewater, and I believe we have Miss Emily Martinazzi.
Yes.
Hi.
As Emily's coming, I just wanted to give her a quick introduction. Emily is the newest member of the Water and Wastewater Engineering Division. And Matt Lipinski, the division chief, and I met her in January of this year, believe it or not. And when we met her, we immediately knew that this bundle of energy had to be a part of MES. Fortunately, she agreed. And her first assignment is reimagining the compliance data. We live and die in water, wastewater by our compliance in our facilities. So we had her reimagine how we present our compliance data. Emily, take it from there.
All right, hi everyone. Thank you, Tim, for that introduction. I'm Emily Martinazzi. I'm an assistant engineer for the Water and Wastewater Group. So today I'm going to present to you the graphical presentation of our data. So why do we want to do graphical presentations of data? Well, we want to address the needs of our water and wastewater group, with talking to our regional managers and asking them, what do you run into issues with your compliance data, when you have violations? Have you been able to track them and see if they're coming? They told us it was difficult to see the trends in a tabular form because it's just a bunch of data and you can't really tell where trends are going. It's kind of hard to track it that way. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you can go to the next slide. So for our data sources, we wanted to look at daily, weekly, and monthly data, and we wanted to have it's all collected by the Water and Wastewater Operations Group in the field. The data is entered then into Water Information Management Systems, or WIMS, which is run by TES, and I think they put the data in over there. So when we were looking at the facilities, I asked our engineers and our operators what state facilities, what reimbursable facilities, we wanted to look at. And this is the list that was brought to me by the operators and the engineers. Some of them are currently bigger ones that are just running, they're prisons and state parks, and then some of them are under construction at the moment. We want to make sure that we don't violate our permits during construction. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is an example of one of our graphs. So this is from one of our prisons. We have all of our weekly data graphed out for a 6-month data range because that's how much for WIMS when you email them out to the people. You can only get 180 days worth of data. As you can see, there's a limit at the top, which is the MBE permit limits that they have. And as you can see on this one, they're staying under the limit. They're doing an amazing job up there. And then you have the data on the left, which is just an example. Those do not come out in the emails. That is just on the side, and if the operators need it, I'm more than willing to pull it off and send it to them. And people from our operations, engineering, and safety and compliance get these graphs every month at the end of the month, whenever WIMS thinks the end of the month is. So maybe the 30th, or maybe the 31st, or maybe the 29th. It all depends on that. And they get them staggered throughout the day in these big long reports with all the graphs on them. So you want to go to the next slide? So for the graph and distribution, automatically email at the end of each month, as I said before, you get the last 6 months worth of data according to the date. So we don't get our data for some of our components like BOD or TSS or total nitrogen until the lab data comes back. So, and it's not included in the WIMS until the previous month. So we don't get November data until the end of December. But there is room in there for it to continuously update, and you will get the last 6 months of data in the spreadsheet. So whenever the data is posted, it automatically uploads into the graphs and it just spits it out at the end of the month. So we have all the data. As I said, they're sent to the operators, engineers, and safety and compliance. They were all requested. Our heads of each department get them, and then whoever's division, whoever's region, they get it, and whether operators underneath them they want. And the graphs, the data graph would do permit trends for daily, weekly, and monthly compliance, and it's all based off the permits. So if one component has monthly and weekly limits, it's graphed. There's one graph for monthly and one graph for weekly. If there's daily or monthly, they do both at the same time. So that's just how it is. And I think this is my last slide. So, yeah. Is there any questions?
I have one. Can you add a trend line to these graphs?
So yes, no, actually. I tried to add the permit limits in there, but WIMS is very much a pain with adding that in there. I could do it for the original graphs I had, but then they'd have to be one graph be emailed at a time, and that's like 150 emails, and this is like 15 instead. So we can't add anything besides like trend lines on there, but it's easy. These are the graphs they get, and they can just look and see how it's going. If they're looking like, oh, this is going up, or oh, in the past we had spikes at the beginning of the month, but then it lowered down at the end of the month, so we don't really have to worry, or we're trending upward, so maybe we should take a look at something. So it's mostly just to like catch those things.
And this question is more for, I guess, the higher ups. Do you have anything in the works to do Power BI dashboards to look at these data and data analytics?
So everything's so spread apart.
We are looking at some tools right now, as far as dashboards, so that Dr. Glass and all see the trends in our facilities. And we're also working on an asset management system that allow us to be able to look at the trends as far as maintenance and upcoming maintenance as well. I'll hopefully get into predictive maintenance, so we can actually predict potential failure before it happens and something. So we are looking at those kind of tools and looking at incorporating those into it.
And it was very helpful to graph out the data when we had problems before in other plants. It was very helpful to look at it and be like, yeah, we did see the warning signs of the data going up, but we didn't catch it because we weren't graphing it yet or looking at the trends.
Yeah, these dashboards are very helpful. What we're ultimately going to end up with will be very helpful because at a glance you'll be able to see where we're going.
Thank you. Next up, we have Technical and Environmental Services, Mr. Luke Page, Division Chief.
I'm gonna hide behind the podium because of my belly also.
I don't know, squad we gotta stick together. Good choice. Good morning, everybody. My name is Luke Page. I'm the Division Chief of PES. Unfortunately, you'll have to listen to me talk today instead of Ms. Slatnick because she couldn't be here. But I'm going to go over our preparations for the 2023 to 2024 winter season at BWI, which is Baltimore Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport. There we manage the de-icing fluid collection system, and we also are the official snow measurers for NOAA and do the reporting. So if anybody goes on NOAA's website to see how much snow we got at BWI, it's MES staff that provide that. Next slide, please. So MES supports the Maryland Aviation Administration, providing de-icing fluid collection system management during de-icing events necessary for passenger and commercial planes to safely operate. We manage the de-icing fluid recovery and disposal using a series of trench drains, GRVs, and other things, which we'll go into in the next slides. And we collect it, sample it, monitor maintenance of it, and then report it, and we also deal with the disposal of it. The Maryland Aviation Administration has 3 glycol recovery vehicles, which are GRVs, and we have to use CDL drivers with tanker endorsements. We currently have 15 CDL certified drivers on the airport, and we have 2 junior staff that are working towards getting them, and we have an in-house CDL training class. They hold 800 gallons, the MA-owned ones hold 800 gallons of de-icing fluid that's collected off the ground, but that also accounts for any rainwater, snow, anything else, sand, zippers from luggage, all of that goes into the 800 gallon capacity. So it can fill up very, very quick in a snow event when they're de-icing planes. Next slide. To supplement those, we have, we lease 2 GRVs through another company, and they actually hold 1,800 gallons of fluid. So those are our preferred ones to use when we have to because of the increased capacity.
each season, our staff have to go under supervised training with the leasing agency. And we had our training last week, so everybody's good to go. We have staff there on call 24 hours a day for when de-icing events take place. In addition to operating the GRVs during a de-icing event, like I was saying, we have a series of collection drains, diversion vaults, and pump stations. Fluid hits the ground, it runs into a trench drain. We can divert it either to stormwater if it is clean, or we divert it into our collection system if it has glycol or other contaminants in it. Goes to a pump station, and ultimately it goes to our storage facility where it can be circulated, sampled, and either go to high concentrate, which we then recycle, or can go and be discharged to sanitary sewer based on their BOD and COD results. Next one. This is a picture, if you can see it, of our glycol recovery vehicle offloading pit. It's down there in the back corner by that wall. And then we have the red tank there at the side. When the operators come over and take a sample of each GRV full of fluid, and if it's above the 5% limit to make it high concentrate, they offload it into that red tank. If it's below the 5%, it goes to our pit, which then gets diverted out to the rest of our collection system. Next one. This is the snow measuring board. This wasn't from last year because I don't think we got that much snow period last year.
Yeah.
They are stationed out there. There's certain elements. You can't have trees within a certain area building. You have to be careful of blowing snow and other things. So they're strategically placed in two things. We have two boards, the 6-hour board and the cumulative board. If you can go to the next one. During an event, staff are on there and they measure the snow every 6 hours, and then they collect it, melt it down to get the liquid equivalent of how much snow it equaled. And then at the end of the thing, they enter in the total accumulation on the second board. So they are running every midnight. Like we said, if you want to check Noah's thing, an MES person is there at midnight inputting into the system. So we are on 24/7 when it is snowing. And I would say they used to declare de-icing events at 40 degrees or below in precipitation, but they don't seem to quite follow that rule anymore. We're not 100% sure, but the MAA actually declares a de-icing event, and then we are tasked to respond to it. We do not declare whether or not it's an event. The MAA does. And the ultimate goal is to discharge as little possible to the stormwater surrounding the airport. And I will say the staff up there do a tremendous job with that. Any questions? Because I think that's my last one, right?
No.
Sweet. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. Is there any new or old business that we should consider discussing? Okay, legal report, Mr. Sean Coleman.
I have one matter for discussion in closed session.
Okay, terrific. So I do believe we plan on adjourning during the closed session, so we will not reconvene in open session. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Next meeting is Thursday, December 14th, 2023, 9:30 a.m. And I look forward to seeing everyone there. And I hope that everyone listening and or present for this meeting today has a wonderful Thanksgiving.